Hey Ty, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Jerry. I'm well. How are you?
Okay, I take it you hear me.
Uh, Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I hope it's a short meeting tonight. Are you going anywhere for Easter?
I'm not. I'll be around here. But yes, I echo your hopes on the brevity of the meeting, of course.
Yeah.
Always fingers crossed, always.
Question, are you going in, you're going to be around, but you having dinner with anyone or you're just going to be around?
Oh yeah, I'm having dinner with friends.
Good. That's all that
Yeah,
matters.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. All right, I'm going to mute myself and turn off my camera until we really get going.
Okay. Thanks, Jerry.
Take it easy. Bye-bye. See you later.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jerry. Oh. Hi, Peter.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Peter. Hello, Suzanne. I had to I had to go from mute to unmute.
There you go. I have to go downstairs and get my drink.
And I'm going to go to mute, so until we have to say something.
Hi, Jerry.
Hey, Karen, how are you? I hear you,
Uh,
but I don't see you.
Good.
Good.
You might hear some fire engines and police cars going by. They've got everything blocked off over here in Park Slope because someone just got shot in Atlantic Mall. Ay,
Not
ay,
again.
ay, ay. Yeah, this just has become this is debilitating.
Combine that with the idiocy of yesterday, it's beyond debilitating.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't know what happened.
Before I
It's too
forget,
much, though.
Karen, have a happy Easter. And
Yes.
I hope you get together with the whole family on Sunday.
You can wish belated happy birthday. You're late.
Hi, how we doing on a quorum?
It looks like we're 3 short.
So how many members we have right now? We're short members, I guess.
Well, unfortunately, I guess it depends on whether the people whose terms ended at March are still on here pending the new names that are coming from Borough Hall.
I seem to recall that even the people whose terms expired at the end of March would serve until replacements were made.
That is true from a legalistic point of view.
Yeah,
But since we didn't communicate that to each and every one of them, some of them may have made their own decisions on that.
right.
Yeah, we're still at the same number we were, which I forget what it is offhand. I know I've shared the list and gone over it with Borough Hall a few times.
I had hoped that the new borough president might be a little bit more timely in making his appointments. But I guess it's the process as opposed to the person, so.
Yeah, well, I know that, I mean, I've been in touch with them on various things. I know that they are still staffing up to a great extent at Borough Hall. Even in terms of who I deal with on the, just
Right.
some day-to-day issues.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I think the mayor took about 2/3 of the Borough Hall staff with him when he went to City Hall, so they're a little behind the 8 ball.
I thought it was more than 2/3, but let's not argue, but you're right.
It could be more.
It was a lot, either way.
Now Marty Markowitz would have loved that because he was upset about how many, civil service appointees there were
Oh, yeah.
and that he couldn't hire very many people of his own. So as I recall.
We got 24, so are we at quorum?
I think we are.
No, we're that's -2 because Mike and I aren't members,
All
Oh,
right, I'm sorry,
and we need 23 for quorum.
thank you, Ty. Sorry.
sorry.
I didn't see the number.
Hi,
Hey, Bob, I got your call. I forgot to call you back today. I'm sorry.
that's all right. I don't remember at this point what it was. But can you mail me an application for a block party?
Sure.
Is there a deadline on it? Or was there one?
I think you just have to have 90 days out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Got 22.
I think we're a quorum now, Peter.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for the April meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 6. I'm reporting to you tonight from Asbury Park, New Jersey, where we've come down for the Passover holiday with my sister. I wanted to tell you a couple of things that I've learned. I know that the opening and placement of supermarkets is of great concern to many of you, and I've learned that the building that is just about complete on 4th Avenue between Warren and St. Mark's, that the entire ground floor, which is about 8,000 square feet, is going to be home to a supermarket by the name of Food Garden Market. They have a store right now in Crown Heights. I've read a couple of articles about it and looked at it. It's a little bit Whole Foods, a little bit Union Market, The fact that their first store is in Crown Heights gives me some hope that it won't be exorbitantly expensive. I mean, it certainly is not a substitute for Key Food, from a price perspective. But, certainly, for those in need of a quart of milk or a last minute ingredient, I understand they're going to have fresh vegetables. They're going to have, prepared foods. They're going to have a juice bar and a cafe. So, hopefully it will be a valuable addition to the neighborhood. When I walked by there the other day, I noticed that the ground floor space is complete. I've not seen anybody go in there to build it. I mean, it's complete empty. I mean, cinder block walls and everything like that. So I imagine the next step will be for the owner of that store to go through and to, build it out. There's also 3,000 square feet of storage in the basement. So, that will be something we can probably look forward to perhaps, in the fall, September. And they're proceeding with tearing down the Key Food. It shouldn't take them too much longer to do that, but I still imagine it's probably 3 years before, any grocery store will open up there. Mike informed me today, and I was surprised at this. It's sort of time flies when you're having fun, that we have not given our staff in the community board office a raise in salary since September of 2019. So it will be almost 3 years and probably will be by the time.
Peter, you want to go to the minutes first?
Not necessarily, no.
The March minutes.
Let me finish this. Yes, I'll do it. I know.
Okay.
I saw your text.
Oh, no, hang on. I'm just putting this in. Oh, sorry.
Not a problem.
I'm putting them in the chat if anyone needs them.
So, we haven't given them a raise in 3 years. So I'm going to ask for a motion. What we're going to do is we're going to split up the money that's there. It'll probably represent about 3% a year. So, hardly revelatory, but certainly, especially for all the hard work they did during the pandemic, they certainly deserve a raise. We're not able to raise salaries retroactively anymore, Mike informs me. So this would be going forward. And as I said, given the lengthy approval process from the city, it will probably take, until September for them to actually see that raise. So it will be, 3 years since their last increase in salary, and I think it's well deserved. So I think we have somebody that's proposing to make a motion. Alex, remember to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion on this. So my understanding is that there is money in the budget
Yes.
that is not able to be used for another purpose, and that we've actually been returning in prior years because it hasn't gone to salary or anywhere or the fixed costs. And so that money could be what would go to salary. I just wanted to add that point. And so the resolution that I would propose would be to take that money that's in the budget currently that isn't allocated towards salaries and to use that for cost of living adjustments in salary increases for our 3 staff members.
I will happily, gratefully, gleefully, whatever you want to put, second that motion.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there any discussion on that motion? Raise your hand, please, so that I can recognize. Seeing none, we're going to take a vote. All those, if there's anybody who is against this salary increase, please note so in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to presume that you're, and yes, certainly a good point. We should add to our calendar the idea of giving salary increases every year so that this doesn't happen again. And I apologize, with all the other things we've been thinking about that we didn't, but yes, I would certainly ask Mike to make this a yearly reminder at around, at around the late springtime, so that September can be the time when these raises come in. And again, given the city bureaucracy, it'll probably take until September before the raises are in effect. So that is approved. So,
Can I just make
sure.
a comment
Yes,
for the
please.
future?
Mhm.
I think it would be good for the discussion first to be in the executive committee
Yes, absolutely.
for anything personnel related.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, Rick, I totally hear you on that. I just want to make 2 points on that is that, so previously we weren't allowed to give raises at all. So I just got clearance that we were even allowed to. Secondly, I've given back money, and two, due to a payout to a previous employee, we were hamstrung for quite some time on it. So it was just to get the ball rolling. I hear what you're saying on that.
yeah, and I'm 110% supportive, but just in terms of the ability to
So if,
discuss on a regular
and
basis.
since my chairmanship will be over by the time this comes up again, I would just say to the members of the finance, personnel and law, if you could, take it on your agenda to, in the springtime to consider that and to make a recommendation to the executive committee, that way we can act on it in a timely manner. So, before we go to one of our guests, we're just gonna take a moment to approve the minutes. Can I have a motion to that effect, please? The minutes of the March meeting, which Mike posted in the chat. Motion from Eric.
Second,
second it.
Second from
I'll
Suzanne.
second.
Just one correction.
Sure.
I noticed that both the Permits and Licenses Committee and Landmarks Land Use Committee, on which I serve, the votes are showing as 29 in favor or 27 in favor, and we don't have nearly that number of people on either committee. So I'm just going to want to correct that.
I don't know that those are the committee votes. That's the full board vote.
Correct. That's the full board vote.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, no,
So
That is
anybody
very
who is
popular committee.
Yeah.
anybody who is against the approval of the minutes, please note that in the chat so that we can go against it. And I understand that Councilwoman Avila is with us. Aviles, excuse me. And I will recognize her and I'll ask her to unmute herself and to tell us whatever she'd like to share with us. Councilwoman.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As many of you know, we had a horrendous situation yesterday with the shooting in 36th Street subway station. I'm sure you have seen the incessant reels on the television. I just wanted to report back to you that, we are holding it together here in Sunset Park. Obviously, they have reported capturing the suspect of the shooting. And so I think that certainly brings us a little breathing room. But I just want to thank all the first responders, all the MTA workers, the principals and teachers, and honestly, everyone went into the training mode. All our students were held safely in the buildings and were dispatched safely at the end of the day, despite all kind of parent angst, of which I was one of those. My daughter was also on her way to that train station at that time. I think we have been obviously talking a lot to the media, talking to our community members. There's a lot of stress around what is happening. So we are offering, obviously, our community members as much support as possible. The schools have offered many of their families support and providing parents with guidance around how to process and talk about the situation, given that kids, of course, are on the internet and watching the incessant reel over and over again on television. So if there's any way, certainly, or anyone here that would like to, engage in any of those conversations and supports, please feel free to reach out to our office. We will be hosting a Day of Unity in Sunset Park this Saturday, April 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. Near the lawn of 44th and 6th Avenue. So anyone is invited to come. This is really a moment to come together, to build community, to work on processing what we've experienced. Certainly our city sadly is this is not our first stint with acts of violence we see in parts of our community in Red Hook. There's very much gun violence happening there as well. So our community needs a lot of support, and I hope we will continue to do that with each other. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our office. Oh, absolutely. We have just putting together the information, Obarima, so I will be sure to send it to the whole board.
And please share it with Mike so that he can put it in his newsletter on
Yes.
Friday.
Yes, Mike's fabulous newsletter that we appreciate so much. We will absolutely do that. I guess just to switch it really quickly to some other business. Tomorrow we have a stated meeting at City Council, and we'll be introducing a resolution calling on New York State to and the governor to pass and sign Assembly Bill 1866, which is the NYCHA Utility Accountability Act. And as many of you know, NYCHA residents face often these utility outages, are offered sometimes vouchers that they may or may not be able to use, but often do not account for nearly the expense or the nuisance of paying for utilities that actually don't work. This will require NYCHA to allow NYCHA residents to claim rent abatements for utility outages to provide them some additional relief. Also, it has been put in the media that this council hasn't introduced a whole lot of legislation. That is true. This council has been, there's a lot of legislation sitting in the council, actually, an enormous amount that hasn't made its way through kind of the legislative body. So I guess I want to allay any fears here that this council isn't hard at work, but there is a mechanism that seems to be holding on to quite a lot of legislation. So I think you're going to be seeing a lot more come out in certainly a couple of months. We, of course, here at District 38 have been working tirelessly, not only with the situation yesterday, but we have seen well over 700 constituent cases at this point from across our district. And so we are certainly working very hard. And I guess the last thing I want to leave you with is we have been offering mobile office hours in other parts of our district, in Red Hook and in Chinatown portion of our district, in addition to our standard office hours where we're open. Just for folks, we are having our next Red Hook office hours are Saturday, April 9th in the Red Hook Library from 11 to 3 p.m.
That date has already passed.
Oh, that is. Yes, it has. Here we go. Let's see. I'm on the wrong document, so I'm going to have to get that to you. But we have certainly 2 more upcoming Red Hook dates, 2 more dates every month. Our commitment was to do it twice a month in Red Hook Library, and then 1 day, I think at Red Hook Initiative. I will send Mike all that information to get it to you. And lastly, we'll be having certainly another community event around fire prevention. I sit on the citywide task force for fire prevention. We have seen many, many fires. And so there's a workshop taking place April 20th, 3 to 5 p.m. at 245 23rd Street, which is a community-based organization named Mixteca. There's certainly a lot more events, and we won't bore you with all of those, but we bid you all thank you for your patience. Certainly, we will also be distributing COVID tests. COVID is unfortunately on the rise again, so I hope you are all protecting and safe, and we will be distributing masks, and please get tested. And if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. There's a ton more I haven't covered, but you have much business to tend to tonight. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, council member. We appreciate it. And our love and sympathy goes out to all of the residents of your district who were affected by the tragedy in the subway. It's thrilling to hear that they've caught the person that they believe is responsible. And we'll look forward to, an appropriate adjudication of that. But again, it was a terrible thing, and certainly the police and your office and others stepped up to deal with it in a timely and appropriate manner. So we thank you for that. And we're going to move on, I guess, to I don't see any other elected officials yet, so we're going to move on to the district manager's report.
All right, I'll be pretty brief as I usually am. Thank you, Peter. So first, I'd like to just two very quick points. One, thanks to everyone who voted for the raises for the staff and everything. But I appreciate that, of course. But I'd like to specifically thank, and someone who when I first gotten clearance about this from OMB, I reached out to someone who has unique knowledge of this situation at the board office and things of that nature. Leroy Branch, who isn't here yet, but Leroy, if he was able to be here, and I asked him, I said, can I be clear? And he said, yes, that he would have made the motion if he was here on time. I'm not sure if I missed him, if he's jumped on, but I really appreciate that because he understands, and people that were around for it don't need to, we don't need to rehash it, but some of the issues that he had experienced, and he and people know that he and I were both up for the position. So Leroy continuing to be such a professional about this, and so just helpful throughout on all matters. And I work with him on DOT related matters, even when I'm going to, be very annoyed that they still haven't given us our BQE update. I just like to thank him on that. Also, and this could overlap a little bit with something Peter would highlight though, but with regards to meetings going forward, still getting some clearance on a law that was passed about exactly how we can use Zoom meetings when the emergency declaration or order ends later this week. With regards to, I think the way we do it now would be okay, but we're still waiting some clarity from the law department on it. So I will share that. Also, and I'll put it in the chat and it's on the front page of our website along with this meeting, the facilitator RFP for the Gowanus rezoning, that is one of the 3 conditions we push for. I'd like to make sure that people know about it. I'll put it in the chat. Regardless of what anyone thinks of the rezoning, I think having an active and engaged and task force that's able to, hold the city's feet to the fire would be a good thing. And I think a good facilitator in that role would do a really good job. Anyway, that newsletter that was referenced, if anyone wants me to include something, feel free to email me at mike@bkcb6.org. Or to sign up for it, you can text BKCB6 to 22828. Or you could also just email me, as sometimes people do, and say, please add me to the list. So that's it. And I guess that's
Great,
it.
Mike. Thank you. Thank you very much. And hold on one second. Oh, yes. So we're going to go on to permits and licenses. Rachel, unfortunately, was not able to be with us tonight. So Rebecca Colbert is going to present those motions. So I recognize Rebecca, ask her to unmute herself and to go ahead and present those motions.
Thank you, Peter. I'm gonna wait, I think, for Ty to share his screen so that there's a bit of a visual going along with it.
I'm here. Can you just tell me which address you want to do first?
Let's start with what is it, 67th Avenue?
You got it.
Okay. So this was for an application for Cousin John's, which is currently a Park Slope bakery that's much loved since the 80s, and they are moving locations. They're going to be in the old Santa Fe location after getting into a bit of a standstill negotiations with their current landlord. And because they're going to be in a larger location, they want to expand their current brunch menu and for the first time do dinner as well. And with that increased seating and menu options, they wanted to have the option to serve alcohol. So they came before the board, and we had quorum and voted unanimously to pass their application. Their hours were pretty reasonable. I don't have them in front of me. Ty, do you have them available?
I can get them 1 second.
Cool. Sorry, I'll pull them up as well. I thought I had them handy. 1 sec. Pulling them up. I think the hours ended though by 10 p.m. and they don't have any outdoor space. And we're not putting forth any application for a sidewalk cafe.
That's right, 10 p.m.
10 p.m. Yeah. Okay. I forget what
That motion was approved?
that motion was approved. Yeah, unanimously.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Cousin John's has been an institution in this neighborhood. I mean, my oldest nephew, who is 33, I think we got his first or second birthday cake from Cousin John's. So his store has certainly, or the bake shop has certainly been around for a lengthy amount of time. So is there any discussion on this motion to approve a liquor license application for Cousin John's? Seeing none, we're going to approve the motion. If there's anybody that is either against it or wishes to abstain with or without cause, please note that in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to presume that you are in favor of this motion. And I will ask Rebecca to present the next motion.
Great.
Hang on, Rebecca, there's some problem with your audio.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, great. So the next one also was voted unanimously by the board. It was at 226 7th Avenue. It is called Don Abel. Yes. It's a Mexican restaurant. They have mostly tacos, rotisserie chickens, a gluten-free and largely vegan menu. And they're open from noon to 11 p.m. They just wanted the option to serve margaritas along with their existing menu. These owners were also the owners of the Armory on 4th Avenue in Bergen, which closed during the pandemic. They're going to reopen a little bit further down in the old Douglas location, but they have been, responsible stewards of a liquor license in the past. They don't have any outdoor space, and they again were voted unanimously by the board or by the committee.
Any comments or questions about this application? Seeing none, I again ask if you either wish to vote against or to abstain with or without cause on this motion that you noted in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to presume that you're in favor of it, and I'll ask Rebecca to present the last motion that she has.
Okay, great. And the last one was at 354 Van Brunt Street in Red Hook. This is called Dockies. It's going to be like an elevated bar, food and snacks location with occasionally live music, all indoors, and a full bar. A few members of the community came out to support the owners as being multi-generation Red Hook residents who would be providing a real gathering place for the community. And once again, this was voted for unanimously by the committee.
Great. Any comments or questions on this motion? Jerry. Remember to unmute yourself.
Just a quick question. You said elevated establishment? What is?
Oh, yeah, elevated bar food. I think that usually just means that things aren't like stuck in a deep fryer for a really long time. They sent a menu, which let me see if there's anything.
That's fine. I'd never heard that term before.
I've heard it before. You don't hear it a lot, but
No.
essentially it's one step above, crappy fried food. Or a couple steps above crappy fried food.
Sounds good. I'm in favor.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, again, I'll ask if there's anybody that's either against or wishes to abstain with or without cause, that if you would note that in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to presume you are in favor of this. Thank you, Rebecca, for stepping in for Rachel. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
So now we have some landmarks and some land use ones, and so I'll recognize Alec first. There's a motion that he has to present regarding something for the Board of Standards and Appeals.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I think I'll be handling both the first land use
Okay.
item and 2 landmarks items today.
Okay.
David wasn't with us in our last meeting, so I filled in for him, and it's nice to be able to hand off. Okay, so the first item is a land use item, and this is the one of the three items that proved somewhat divisive inside the committee. And I want to give some context here. This is a project to build a logistics facility, i.e. like a last mile facility in Red Hook. And I think we all know that there have been a lot of last mile facilities opening in Red Hook, and that they have had a lot of effects on the community that have been negative. And there's been a lot of focus on from community members about the effects of such facilities, traffic, pollution, et cetera. And so this proposal comes in that context, but I want to point out an important part of this proposal so everyone understands it. The applicant has the ability to build a last mile facility on the site right now, and irrespective of what we do. But what they are asking for is the ability to build what is effectively one larger building instead of two smaller buildings, even though I'm going to discuss the presentation. Yeah, we'll get there. I see the comment. I'm sorry to be distracted by the comment. We'll get there. What they're seeking to do is be able to build one larger building rather than two smaller buildings. The aggregate amount of the two buildings together, our understanding isn't going to change. The question is one building or two buildings, okay? And the reason why they need our approval is because that larger building would, under their proposal, occupy the site of a currently unmapped street. So they need the opportunity to build on what is, I should say, what is technically a street, but is privately owned right now, which they cannot build without a waiver. Okay, so they're seeking a BSA application to get a waiver to be able to build in a street. This page we're seeing now in the presentation gives you a little bit of the site here. It was the site of the Buckeye Terminal, and it was cleared. You can see that post demolition. Can we go to the next slide, Ty?
Sorry, one sec. Having a slight technical difficulty. Just 1 second, please.
It happens, no problem.
You want to take a comment or two while we're waiting?
Yeah, I mean, what I can do is
Just to
maybe.
fill-
Why don't you
just
wait
to
till
fill
he
the
tells us
space.
a little bit
Okay.
more?
No, never mind.
Great. So this page 8 here, thanks, Ty, gives you a better idea of some of the features of the site. It's bounded by Bryan Street, Court Street, the Gowanus Canal, and the Henry Street Basin. It's obviously part of Red Hook's waterfront, and it has direct waterfront access. And the applicant notes that there is a direct route to Hamilton Avenue. If we go to the next page, this is this slide 9 shows the privately owned paper street that's never been a street, but is technically a street and is privately owned. If we go to page 10, it outlines the nature of the actions they're asking for. Essentially, the ability to build in that street, and then the opportunity to build in that street as if it were just part of the existing zoning on the site. So as if it were never a street at all and treated like every other part of the site. If we go down a little further, Ty, this is an example of what they can do as of right, and then the alternative that they would be able to build with the approval. So it's 7-story logistics facility in there as of right. They note that there will be more off-street loading, staging, and parking under the as of right proposal. That's at least their contention. They point out that this site, because it's on the waterfront, could be the opportunity for, in the future, waterfront loading and unloading rather than truck-based loading and unloading. But they point out that they currently, whether that would be a viable use in the future would really depend on the tenant, and they don't have, they're not controlling who the tenant would be. It's just sort of an option. And on the alternative, you can see, rather than this one big building in gray here, which they didn't mock up in a nicer fashion, you can see on page 13, Ty, yes, great. The two buildings, and their argument is that having
Can I ask everyone to, other than Alec, to mute their line so that we can hear him, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, this is like a little confusing. They're calling the two building plan because there's another building on the site which I've been ignoring for this purpose. But so it's really the difference between a 2 or a 3 building plan. I apologize. Essentially, the proposal allows them to eliminate one of the buildings, but this is the alternative scheme. The site will. I'm a bit confused. I apologize. I got confused by the nature of the presentation, but there's this site. This slide 13 here shows the 2 building site that they can build without the waiver, and the site the 14 slide shows what they would build with the waiver. So you can see there's a larger building, and there's this other building off to the right here, which they're going to build in any event. And they're actually already under the process of building that one. So if I could try to summarize what the debate, and sorry about any confusion, happy to answer specific questions if we get to it. If I could try to summarize the nature of the debate at committee on this subject. There was a resolution to vote against the proposal. That's the one I voted for, and it carried a majority of the committee, but the committee was pretty closely divided. If I could summarize why folks wanted to vote against this, it is that there have been a lot of last mile facilities in Red Hook. They've had a lot of negative environmental and community consequences. The city is failing to, and state government and federal government are failing to control those externalities. And I think it's fair to characterize the committee's vote as saying we are not going to do anything to ease the process of building yet another last mile facility in Red Hook. Now, the opposition to that motion that would have voted for the resolution, I think has a lot to it. Their point is that we should not confuse general opposition to last mile facilities like this and their negative effects in Red Hook with the specifics of this proposal. And the applicant says that this proposal would reduce the amount of traffic and bad effects on the community by allowing for more of the loading and unloading, et cetera, to happen inside their bigger, larger facility rather than on the street. And if there's a response to that, and then I'll throw it to everyone else, but if there was a response to that from the folks who voted to disapprove, it is, while the applicant has a lot of good things to say about what this waiver would do to allow them to reduce traffic, they didn't show anything to prove it. They didn't produce a traffic study or give data. They simply stress that there'll be more internal loading zone and there'll be more entries and exits on the street. And so there's really no reason, so the argument goes, to believe what they're saying about the effects of the waiver. So that's how I would articulate the debate. Again, the committee voted to disapprove this application, I think 7-4.
That is the motion that is on the floor right now. I mean, we will vote on it after questions and discussion. But please know that if you vote yes on this, that means you are voting to disapprove giving them the privilege of building on this street, and that you are endorsing the building of 2 different buildings. I'll stress that again at the end, but just so that we're understanding, a yes vote on this is saying that you want them to build 2 buildings on that site instead of 1 large building. So we'll start with Bob Levine. Please remember to unmute yourself before you speak.
Yeah, this was introduced by Alec as saying it's an application for the owner for a last mile place there. That's not really true because they don't know what they're going to put there. They're the owner of the building and they will put whatever the tenant wants. In reality, Alec is right that it probably will be a last mile building and and that's what it's going to end up being. I mean, they even hinted to that effect that that's probably what it would be. So it is a strange thing to be voting for or against something that we don't know what's going to be there. And it's a very balancing act. My big objection, which goes along with that, is if you're going to build something and you've got a dock there that's a working dock, then you should at least be building a building that might have access to that waterfront. They're building a big building with no access to the front. The building doesn't have a door on that side of the water side or a loading dock or anything else. At least if they had the street still there, they would be able to get to the dock easier. So even if it was a last mile, which, we can't argue what's going to be there, they should be at least preparing for the use possibly to being a waterfront use as well. So that's why I'm voting against the plan as it presented. I think they should be working more on looking at that waterfront that has a working dock and build that into what they have instead of sending everything there by truck.
Thank you, Bob. Mark Shames.
Yeah, I feel that the applicant has made a determination for its own purposes that the use of one building would be more efficient, whether or not it would be better or worse for the community. They believe it's better for their business purposes. I see no reason to maintain this private street in the middle of their property other than for us to be vindictive against the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose will probably be the same whether they have the one big building or two buildings. I would prefer to see the people at the Board of Standards and Appeals analyze the application on merits of the application as to whether this would have any negative or positive impacts on the community. And if it were to be neutral, support the applicant's desire for efficiency, or if it's even better for the community ultimately to support it on those grounds. I don't think we've done either of those things. I oppose the motion. I continue to oppose.
Thank you, Mark. Joanna Smith.
Yes, I'm feeling like as a board in general, we need to take the long view more often when we're looking at this kind of massive project in our district. And this particular one, as was just noted, is on the waterfront, and uses are going to be shifting, whether we like it or not. Uses are not going to be static. The current configuration of the waterfront is not going to be the current configuration of the waterfront in probably a few short decades. So I just wanted to kind of throw that into the conversation. And I'm thinking we should opt always to support plans that are more agile and flexible rather than monolithic single use. Thanks.
Thank you, Joanna. Jerry Armor.
I think that one of the reasons we, in our discussions, we noted that one, this is a developer. And he said it might be rented to 1, 2, or 3, and even 4 possible different firms, of which they would have no control over how they load the trucks, where they load the trucks, and they would have no control. It would be up to the individual tenants to make sure that their trucks and delivery, both in and out, how they use the streets. And that's a problem. Our other last mile warehouses are at least monolithic in their tenants. And what little control and power we have over them, having one tenant is a little easier than having a developer come and he has no control over who he rents it to them. and they're going to do what they want. That's one problem. The other problem is, yeah, it might be close to Hamilton Avenue, but as was pointed out by Alec, there were no discussions, no presentation as to how the trucks would gain entry, where they would come from. They talked about relieving the pressure in that area of Red Hook. There is no pressure in that area of Red Hook with truckers right now, and there hasn't been. That is not one of the hotspots. So I think we needed a little bit more information as to how the trucks would get there, the volume of trucks, either with with 2 or 3 buildings, the volume of trucks would be the same. So I think there were some real gaps in the presentation, and it was the gaps that caused me to support the motion. And I still support the motion. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Eric McClure.
Thanks, Peter. And I attended the meeting with interest in what they were proposing. I would add to what Jerry said. I believe that their presentation was lacking in detail. They did not present anything to the board to convince me that there was a clear, there would be a clear reduction in truck loading issues with the single building they want versus the 2 buildings that they can build as of right. So I feel like they didn't convince the committee of the need for that. And they also, I mean, they're at the disadvantage of late mover status into a neighborhood which is already going to be overrun with these types of facilities. And, if they were the first one, it might have been a different reaction, but they kept talking about there being a responsible developer. And my pushback was, well, the responsible thing to do is to wait until legislation gets moved on that would control the proliferation of these facilities, which obviously they don't want to do. So I am supportive of the motion.
Thank you, Eric. Karen Broughton.
I wanted to know, I'm voting against it. As Jerry said, it seems like there were gaps in this proposal, and also I didn't really see any community input where maybe they met with the community, because when you think of community, it's also multiple schools in Red Hook where kids actually have to have some interaction with Hamilton Avenue that travel back and forth. There's also the idea of there's no specifications of what this can become. I mean, when you have multiple tenants, what does that mean? It may look like, page A today, and then we're looking at 5 different things down the road. So I'm against it. I don't see everything tying in. I don't see the specifications that should have been in the proposal. So I'm gonna vote against it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Ariel.
Hi, I also think one thing that wasn't stated, there was the size of this whole project. And I think that if I remember correctly, I was just trying to find the square footages of this building, but it's enormous, even in the context of the other ones that were being made if it was to be built. And they could not answer the question of, if you built one big one, while that might be better from a business perspective, does it mean a different user comes in as a result of that? And it was just something, it was so, to me, so integral to how you would design and build or think about a development, and they couldn't answer that question. And it should, I'm sure they've done the market research, so I wasn't sure why they didn't answer that question.
Thanks, Ariel. Alec, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up to make the point, following on what Ariel said, that they said that it was the same aggregate buildable size in the waiver situation or the no waiver situation, but they were very non-committal in any way about who the precise tenants would be, and made clear that the nature of the traffic flow and all of that would really be determined by the nature of the tenant, which they could not predict or, refuse to give additional details about. And as to Bob's point, I just wanted to say, it's true that I think hypothetically, the site could be a use other than a last mile facility. They made very clear they were building something to be a logistics facility and a last mile facility. And if they had not considered seriously, well, they were repeatedly asked, did you consider any other sort of industrial and manufacturing use on this site? And they avoided that question by saying, we have every intention to build something that will be a last mile logistics facility. So, I think that people can vote on this application with the reasonable confidence that that is what will be on the site. That's all.
I'll just throw in, Alex is right on what he just said on that, so I didn't really mean. Well,
Does anybody else have a comment or question? Given how we're here, I honestly and sadly think that we need to take a roll call vote just to avoid having too many people noting things in the chat. Do we have the ability to do that? Does somebody have the list of members who are present that can call the roll? Ty, Bob, or Mike, excuse me. Don't all answer at once.
Just a second, Peter.
Sure. I mean, I can call names off the screen if somebody's prepared to tally the votes.
I think that's probably the best way to move forward. I'll tally if you want to read the
Okay,
name.
great. Alec. Remember a yes vote is a vote to not allow them to build on the street, but to essentially say that you're wishing them to build 2 buildings. So a yes vote is a vote against what they're asking for. And remember to unmute yourself when you vote, please. Alec,
Yes.
Ariel,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes,
Joanna,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bob Levine. Remember to unmute, please, Bob.
yes. But there are 2 marks. When you said Mark, you didn't give. a
Oh, I'm
last-
sorry. Mark Shames is the name I was calling first. No.
Oh, sorry. This was Mark
Mark
Torrance.
Torrance
I
voted.
Said yes.
So Mark Shames is a no. Bob Levine, you're a yes?
Yes,
Kamisha Smalls.
Yes.
Glenn
Yes.
Kelly. Yes, got your vote. Thank you. Glenn Kelly.
No.
So Mark, James, and Glenn, no.
Suzanne Tourette. You didn't have to unmute yourself, Suzanne.
Yes.
Thank you. David Briggs.
Yes.
Rick Luftglass.
Yes.
Reginald Ferguson.
Yes.
Angelica Ramadari.
Yes.
Van.
No.
Hildegard.
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Samara.
Yes.
Mark Torrance.
He already voted yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Stacy Johnson. Stacy Johnson?
She's not on the
Oh,
board.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't see the Senator Kavanaugh part. Natasha Campbell.
Yes.
Neil Zeffrin.
Yes.
Tiffany Brown.
No.
Paul Bazile,
No.
Pauline Blake,
Yes.
Leroy Branch,
Yes.
Joanne Brown,
Yes.
great. That's all the names I see here. Is there anyone else that needs to vote? Okay, it strikes me that the motion to disapprove has passed. Unless it's Ty or Mike want to correct me on that.
It was 22-5 for the yeses.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
The same number.
Alec, I think you have some landmark motions to present.
That's right. Thank you. And I don't think these should take as much time. At least they didn't in committee. Okay, so the next one is about the Nighthawk in the movie theater in Park Slope, the former pavilion site at 188 Prospect Park West. And this is to install rooftop photovoltaic cells. Here's a nice picture of the pavilion, now the Nighthawk. And Ty, if we go down to slide 13, I think. This will show you a little bit of what is happening here. There's an existing roof. That existing roof is visible from parts of the surrounding street. And what they're doing is putting these photovoltaic cells on top. And that's going to also be visible and slightly more visible, I believe, because it's raised a little bit over the surface that there currently is. If we go to slide 16, Ty. That is sort of what they'll look like. And slide 20, Ty. Here's a good example of what it's like if you're on the street and you're looking at this now, and you see that orange on the roof as a sort of a mock-up of what it will look like when there's a shiny voltaic cell there instead of a sort of silver roof. If you go to the next slide, there's another. This is sort of a not the orange mock-up we have, but an attempt to to illustrate what it might look like. And you can see it's not a significant change, but there is a cell there now. If you go down to the next slide. That's a further look. And then finally, slide 23. That's another angle. And so we voted unanimously to approve this application. And I'll throw it to the group.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Alec about this motion and application? Seeing none, we're going to presume that you are in favor of approving this motion, unless you note so in the chat.
I have just one quick question. I'm sorry, Peter, I was slow raising my hand. Did they say what portion of their electric load was going to be served by these collectors? I'm just curious.
I don't recall that detail. I'll take a look through the PowerPoint after we get on to different business, Hildegard, and I'll let you know if I see it in
It's just sort of like a fun,
No, totally. No, I mean, it's an interesting question. I'll look.
Thank you. I think it's a cool idea.
Again, if anybody is against this for any reason, I would appreciate you stating so in the chat. Otherwise, we'll ask Alec to move on to his last motion.
I had a quick question too.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I missed the
I
committee
apologize.
meeting.
I didn't see your
That's
hand
okay.
there.
Yeah, it blends in with my wall. I'm curious about, we've been talking about maybe getting like some community solar going in the district. And this is such a huge roof. And I guess, it's backed on what Hildegard was just asking. Is there potential that they could create even more energy than they're going to use and maybe share it with neighbors? So that was just another question I was wondering if it came up.
It's a great question also. It did not come up. But I wouldn't be surprised if the theater itself has a voracious desire for power that will be, not quite satisfied by this roof.
It'll probably serve their daytime load to a certain extent, like air conditioning and stuff.
Right.
The architect put something in the chat regarding the amount of power it will generate.
Cool.
Great. Okay, Alec, I think you have another motion. Let me just go to the chat and state it in case anybody. 16,000 kilowatt hours per year.
Okay, shall we go to the next item, which is 19 Tompkins Place, which is a certificate of appropriateness for a enlarged 2-story rear yard extension, and in the Cobble Hill Historic District. Okay, and this was conditionally approved with the requirement that they change the coloring of railings to be wrought iron painted black, which is a thing that we ask applicants to do in landmark districts all the time for consistency of look. So here is the front of this building, which is not really a subject of this application. And then you can see the rear on the right here of 19 Tompkins Place. If we go to the next slide, Ty. This is a look at what the donut looks like in terms of the built extensions. And you can see highlighted in a darker gray the application here, or the site here, and what it currently looks like, the existing extension. And then, Ty, if you go to the next slide, you'll see the sort of what it's going to look like in yellow again, if the application is approved. And I'll note, because this is often where the kind of question people ask, if you look at this map, you're seeing a lot of extensions, right, of varying sizes, and so this would not be aberrational for this block to have an extension like this. Okay, why don't we go to slide 11? This is, I believe, what the existing extension looks like. It has this piece that hangs out and has this deck and stairs. And then if you go down to slide 12, you'll see what the change will look like. And so that is, it's basically replacing that deck and the existing extension with something that is, more of a continuation of the whole house moving out into the yard. Could we go to slide 14? And great. This is what it looks like now. This 19 Tompkins, it's the second from the left. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see what it will look like. There we go. What it will look like if the application is approved. And I think if we go to slide 17, you'll get another sort of view of what this will look like. And I think it's fair to say that the consensus was that this is not a significant aberration for the context of this donut, and that it was a handsome project, and that they should paint the railings black to be consistent with what we require in landmarks districts generally.
What were they
And it was
proposing, Alex?
otherwise-
What
Excuse
color
me?
were they proposing? What color were they proposing?
I believe it says here they were going with a metal that
Okay.
was not necessarily black. I think they were trying to say that it would match the
The skin of the
color
building.
of the building.
Yeah, I
Alex,
see that
we
it's,
can see it right on the screen there, right in the middle, it says railing.
sorry, the type is way too tiny for me to see. Yes, I see it. Okay,
I
great.
think we should go with.
Oh,
hot
F&B
pink.
strong white. That was the color.
Okay. All right, great. Just clarification, no problem.
No,
Go ahead,
totally. Yeah,
continue.
sorry. The type is small for me too. So there you go. That's the application that was approved unanimously.
Great. Are there any comments or questions for Alec on this presentation?
Was there any representation from the community or adjacent neighbors?
There was a comment that was read by Glenn on behalf of someone he knew to live, I believe, across the way inside the same square block. And that person said that in their view, the extension was out of scale and inappropriate. And I could leave it to Glenn to provide more context, but I think Glenn was passing the note along in the spirit of making sure everybody's voice was heard, but it didn't sound to me like Glenn agreed because Glenn seconded the motion himself.
Right. Alec, that is correct. However, the person who made the comment actually lived across the street and would not even see this.
So there you go.
Eric, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, Peter.
The other thing is,
Alec,
I'm a resident of a block away.
did we have this? Is this something that came back to us? Did we have it before? It just seems like we've had like Tompkins Place like 3 meetings in a row, or so. Are these all different projects going on?
I think so. Maybe it's just a busy block. The
Because,
vultures have
you know,
circled Tompkins Place.
We've got another in that neighborhood coming up this month.
But somebody's buying up all the houses. So thank you.
It's a beautiful block.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to take a vote. If there's anybody who wishes to vote against this or to abstain with or without cause, please note that in the chat so that we can record it. Otherwise, we're going to presume that you are in favor of, we're going to presume you're in favor of this motion. Seeing none, we're going to move on. I understand we've been joined by Council Member Lincoln Ressler. So we're going to ask him to unmute and to address us, please. Thank you, Lincoln. Go ahead.
Thanks so much, Peter. I really enjoyed Alec's presentation. 3 of my best friends grew up on Tompkins Place. It was one of the streets that I caused a lot of trouble on when I was a kid. And you know, one of the policy issues that I'm most eager to dive into in the council is battery storage. And so that when we have an opportunity like the old Pavilion Nighthawk doing, you know, great photovoltaic dense solar panels on their roof, that we have the battery storage on site to be able to use that power to keep that, to allow them to depend on renewable energy 24 hours a day, not just when the sun is shining. So it's great. I always enjoy coming to CB6 and really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the membership here. Before I jump into a couple updates, I just want to say, you know, yesterday was one of the scariest days that I've had as a Brooklynite in a long time. And I don't know how we got so lucky as to avert any fatalities. But I know that yesterday's caused a lot of trauma for folks in Sunset Park and Bay Ridge and in many and across Brooklyn and beyond. And just hope that everybody's okay. You know, today's a day to hold our families a little bit closer, a little bit tighter. And it's fortunate that we've got each of the, I guess, major religions is celebrating a holiday this weekend. We're in the middle of Ramadan. We've got Pesach around the corner and Easter this weekend. So I hope everybody has a meaningful celebration with their families, to all those who celebrate. I wanted to also just share a couple things. We had a great community assembly and inauguration event just over a week ago. Want to thank your fine district manager, Mike Graciopo, and your transportation chair, Eric McClure, and others for joining us. We had fun breakout sessions around transportation issues and sanitation issues and housing issues, and have been identifying organizing actions for each of the attendees to take for how we can all work together to make our neighborhoods even better. We're trying to get 1,000 new households to sign up for composting. We're doing community cleanups across the 33rd. and really hope that we can get folks in the CB6 portion of our district activated and involved. Miss Brown, Joanne Brown, and Tiffany Brown. In fact, your board member Tiffany Brown was one of the folks who spoke at the event, and I really want to thank her for her participation and leadership. A couple other community updates. One, we had a great community meeting on Warren Street at Borum Park this week with the 7-6 precinct, PSA 1, leadership from Gowanus Houses, the Block Association on Warren between Hoyt and Smith to address some of the chronic drug dealing that we've had on that block. It's primarily heroin dealing that's been going on there for a number of years, and we're really organizing all the community stakeholders there to work together, especially the police, to finally get some improvements. And so I'm hopeful that we'll start to see some improvements in people's quality of life and public safety in the immediate future. And I just want to thank all the stakeholders who joined us there. And I also want to, I hope others have announced, we've got the RFP out for the Gowanus facilitator position for the Gowanus Point of Agreement Task Force. Our office and Shahana Hanif, our counterpart, are co-leading that task force, of course, with many of the folks from CB6. We're hoping to bring on a great facilitator so that we can hold the city accountable to each and every one of those points of agreement, to the investments that were promised in our community. One of the areas that we're already starting to get to work is at Wyckoff Gardens. Last week, we had our first community meeting about the $200 million that's going to be invested to improve conditions in Gowanus and Wyckoff. I know that Community Board 6 was a champion for that funding, and I want to thank you for your efforts there. We had a great turnout at Wyckoff. We're starting to get that same community engagement underway at Gowanus. We're waiting for the tennis association elections to play out, and we're eager now to work with the new leadership in Gowanus to start to not only get the money out the door and hold NYCHA accountable to see the significant improvements in the apartments in those developments, upgrades to kitchens and baths and more, finally provide dignity to the tenants of NYCHA. But we're also holding NYCHA accountable about the community center upgrades that are so important. We haven't had a functional community center at Gowanus in over 20 years. The Wyckoff Community Center is not where it should be. So we're pushing hard to see the improvements there. And then one other thing I just wanted to mention is we're doing a dog run survey in our district to try and identify where in our community we need new dog runs, where the dog runs really are inadequate and need to see new investments or improve maintenance and operations. We are eager to ensure that each of our four-legged friends has a wonderful place to play and enjoy. I know Borum Hill is a community, for example, where we really have where we don't have a good dog run, and it needs to be addressed. And so we're looking for suggestions and ideas, and we're committed to trying to put our advocacy and our resources behind improving the kind of lackluster dog runs that we have across our district. So I'll leave it at that. I could probably talk at you for too long, but really appreciate the opportunity to just come in and say hello. And most of all, the thing I just want to say is, if we can help with any issue at all, please contact our office. I'll make sure my contact information is in the chat, but we are here to help. And on any issue, big and small, we want to be your partners. We've got one new appointment, I believe, coming to CB6 in the next month or two. Is a great person. So we got a lot of great applicants, but I imagine with Antonio and Shahana and Alexa, you're going to get some great new members to continue the good work that you all do. So thank you for having me. I don't know, Chair, if happy to take questions if time allows, Chair Fleming, but whatever you prefer.
Great. Thank you, Lincoln. We appreciate it. Be well. We've also been joined by Assemblywoman Joanne Simon. Joanne and I marched together in the St. Patrick's, Brooklyn, Park Slope, St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 20th. It was a great opportunity to see her in person, which I have not for several years. And we had a great, sort of politically wonky discussion, but it was still very enjoyable. So I invite Joanne Simon to unmute herself and to speak, please.
So thank you very much, Peter. I appreciate it. I had a great time having a wonky conversation with you as well. So I want to thank Lincoln said some of the same things I wanted to start with, and that was, of course, yesterday's, mass shooting and the issue of gun violence in general, but also just that, someone opening up fire on in our subways is everybody's worst nightmare. I am very grateful to every New Yorker who helped out a neighbor, to the MTA workers, and to the first responders who really turned out and made this as reduce the trauma as much as at all possible for this type of situation. And I'm really very, very grateful that we have already apprehended the suspect. And good thinking. And we have a young immigrant man from Sunset Park who was smart enough to take a picture of the guy and was very helpful in identifying who the suspect was. So kudos to him as well. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about the budget. I will also mention, since it was an issue here in CB6, is I have a bill to require that community input is required and community engagement is required before a hospital can close, either the hospital or a major department like the emergency department, for example, or maternity. And we were able to pass that bill again. Senator Kavanaugh holds it in the Senate, and I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to get that bill passed this year. I passed it a while ago in the Assembly. We weren't able to get it through the Senate. At that time, it was the Senate was in different hands. We weren't able to get that done, and I'm looking forward to getting that done. So it really is an outgrowth of Litch and all of your efforts and all of our efforts together trying to keep Litch open and the information we didn't have. And this would dramatically change the picture and really empower communities to be engaged in that decision making and to really be fully informed as to what the proposals are and what they're based on. So I'm very pleased that I was able to do that. I did want to address just a couple of issues with regard to the budget. As you know, this was an incredible budget. It was really smooth sailing into the last couple of weeks where we had some policy issues that were raised that were problematic in many people's minds. But we have provided record funding for schools and for the environment. We were able to increase the environmental bond fund, for example, by $1 billion and provide other efforts for electrifying vehicles and really stepping things up so that we can work at decarbonizing our environment, because we don't have a lot of time left. We've really expanded funding for childcare in a variety of ways, and we've really made a lot of progress towards a new deal for SUNY and CUNY. We didn't get everything we wanted in that, but we did make a lot of progress, and I'm really happy that this year, and it was in the governor's executive proposal, and that is that we're closing the TAP gap. If anybody has had to deal with the issues of tuition and the amount of money that is available for TAP recipients, it hasn't been enough to cover tuition. We covered that TAP gap. We have also provided TAP for the first time in a very, very long time for people who are part-time students. And so many of our students start part-time and really struggle. And so this really will make a college accessible, community college accessible for so many people. And the other thing we're doing again this year is with something that was in the original, the governor's original proposal, is to provide TAP funding for those who are incarcerated. So again, that is really progress in the right way. We haven't done that in decades, and it really can make a huge difference in someone's life, so that when they are in reentry, that they're able to have received a degree. And so I'm very pleased that we were able to do that. We have also provided significant additional capital money for NYCHA, which is so desperately needed. We've expanded healthcare coverage for undocumented immigrants for a year after pregnancy. We didn't get everything we wanted there as well, but we did make a dent, and we're providing Medicaid coverage for undocumented seniors who are over 65. There's rent relief for renters. We have over $2 billion in property tax relief checks, and we have provided an additional over $1 billion for emergency rental assistance program, and also for those landlords, for example, who are in danger of defaulting on their mortgages because the rent hadn't been paid. So we are also providing that support. So that will make a big difference to people. So those are some of the things that we did. I'm really pleased that we also were able to respond to so many calls for people here in the 52nd Assembly District for drinks to go. And so we do have drinks to go. I know every bar and restaurant owner in New York is very, very happy with the state legislature at the moment because of that. And so I'm very pleased we were able to do that, which really does make a difference for a lot of our small businesses. Some of the issues that I was less happy about were what I believe are unconstitutional changes to Kendra's law. We weren't able to provide enough pay for our home care workers. We made a dent. We're moving in the right direction. We changed it from just being bonuses to being an increase in wages, and that will make a difference. And we'll continue to go back at it and add to that next year. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have about the budget or anything else. And thank you. And also, by the way, if you don't know, we have a lot of extra COVID tests in our office. We're able to provide them to community groups, people in the community board, or any of the organizations who might be able to help distribute those at-home COVID tests to community members. So thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Before we take questions, if you are here representing an elected official and you want to speak, Ty needs to upgrade you to the panel. So if you can note in the chat that you're here so that he can go ahead and do that, we'll recognize you shortly. And we have two quick questions, one from Bob Levine and then from Jerry.
Mine was for Councilmember Lincoln, if he's still there. I think he is. It's nice if you're doing a dog run, and I just want to make sure or ask if that's including health needs. They're having a lot of trouble with dog runs that keep moisture and is spreading some deadly diseases in Greenpoint. Just hope you're addressing that issue as well. If he's there, he's not. Okay, that's all.
Great. And Jerry.
Joanne, I know, oh, there you are on my screen. I want to thank you for again carrying that bill through the assembly to make sure the community has some input when hospitals or major departments are closing. As someone who was too intimately involved in the Lich fight, and I know what that's like. I know what it does to the community. And we were in the dark in a lot of areas in that we didn't have the information. When we did review the RFP from the state, it was done in such a way that we didn't have all the information. So I'm glad to see that you are again trying to get this passed. So if it happens again, and if it happens again in any other community, they will stand a better chance of winning instead of losing a hospital like we did. So thank you.
You're welcome. I think one thing that I am particularly pleased about is this bill not only requires notice to community within 30 days of the application being filed. So it's not even about a decision, it's the application being filed. And all of the proposals for the closing, for example, have to be provided to the community, to the elected officials, and posted online. And then they have to have a community forum before there's a decision to close a hospital. So current law requires, them to have a forum after the closure. Well, big deal, to quote Joe Biden, BFD, right?
All those are terrific, and I hope it makes it through the Senate this year. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I see Stacy Johnson from Senator
Happy Easter,
Kavanaugh's-
happy Passover, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you
Thank you.
all.
So Stacy Johnson, please unmute yourself and please speak.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, my computer is pretty old, but it's working great. Nice to meet you virtually. I'm a new community liaison in Senator Kavanaugh's office. I'm taking over the Brooklyn section of his district, so that includes CB2, CB6, and CB1. And so for CB6, that's mostly the Cobble Hill neighborhood. I can talk a little bit about the budget. Obviously, you heard a lot of that already from Joanne. So I don't have to go over too much, but I can go into a little bit more detail of the housing funding. So Senator Kavanaugh was really happy with the $8 billion that was included in the budget that will benefit renters, homeowners, and homeless New Yorkers. He made a point to say that the budget was 220 million, which is 4 million more than last year. The housing funding is 1.5 billion for the supportive housing, 1 billion for new construction of rental housing, 800 million in state funds for ERAP. So that's in addition to the 150 million from the federal government, and also 125 million for LRAP for landlords. And I just want to mention that it's really important that people still apply. They might not, like they're going to be at the bottom of the wait list, but of course, if you apply for ERAP, you still have some legal protections if you end up in court. So it's important to apply even if you're worried about the timing of the funding. Let's see, this is not an extensive list. It's just sort of some cherry-picked items from the list. 100 million for Honda, which is to convert hotels to affordable housing. 100 million for Mitchell-Lama. And Joanne mentioned the environmental funding, the Bond Act, and the education funding for CUNY and SUNY, and the childcare funding. So I think that's all pretty good news. Of course, the senator was disappointed in the housing access voucher program not getting included in the budget, but he remains committed to fighting for it. And he'll also continue pursuing the legislative priorities that were discussed during the budget but not included, like the All Electric Buildings Act. The legislative session ends June 2nd, so there's still time to work on a lot of those priorities. I did take note that the bill that Joanne mentioned, I did not know that Senator Kavanaugh is also carrying that bill in the Senate to make sure that there's community engagement for the hospital. If a hospital closes, I think that's very important, and I'll definitely keep an ear to the ground on that bill and keep you posted. And you can reach out to me. I'm going to put my info in the chat. I have a cell phone number and an email. So if you have anything that you want me to get in front of Senator Kavanaugh, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you very much, Stacy. I also see Dan Wiley from Congresswoman Velasquez's office. Remember to unmute, Dan.
All right, I am unmuted. My baby's also unmuted right now. Yeah, Congresswoman Velasquez, Sunset Park is in her district. In fact, this shooters seem to gravitate to her district, migrating from Sunset Park to Park Slope and then the East Village, which she also has Lower East Side. Thank God he's caught. Sunset Park, of course, is an immigrant working class community. So many people going through there to get to work and their lives disrupted. My office, Melissa Del Valle Ortiz in my office, who lives in Sunset Park, has been reaching out to families of the victims and offering whatever support we can. And we have at least 2 constituents who we've already started working with. I also wanted to, mention, the Congresswoman's made the point repeatedly, it's high time that we closed loopholes on purchasing of guns, have universal background checks, which she supports, and she signed on to HR 8, which is it's a bipartisan background check, universal background check bill. We need to get it through the Senate. The House has passed it already. So it's the Senate. Hey, Sam, I'm talking right now, but can I just finish this? Okay. Well, you'll hear both of us. She also introduced the Iron Pipeline Act and other things to beef up. So we all got to work together on this gun problem. Also, congratulations to council members. Alexa Aviles, the congresswoman, swore her in recently in Sunset Park, and also Lincoln Ressler, where the congressman also spoke at his inauguration. It's community project funding request time. And so we had a deadline of Monday for nonprofit community-based organizations that want to propose projects to fund. They're called community project funding. It's earmarks in the House bill. We had success in this for this current fiscal year in the omnibus bill. So some of you might have picked up on the Red Hook collaboration for youth programming across 10 organizations, from Alex House Project to Brothers Dream Basketball, Red Hook Rise, Cora Dance, HeartShare, which actually is the cornerstone project doing after school and activities at the Wyckoff Community Center. This funding for HeartShare would be to expand services in any way they can. It happens that HeartShare, just to be clear with people, had the contract for the cornerstone at Wyckoff. Of course, we're waiting for Gowanus expansion to actually happen, but HeartShare will be delivering that service. We're in another round now, so more groups can apply. We also had Red Hook Arts Media, Pioneer Works, Portside, New York, Red Hook Art Project, Red Hook Community Justice Center, Red Hook Initiative, and Pioneer Works, which is acting as an umbrella for $1 million appropriation. And each of the organizations is getting a piece of that to do their kind of youth programming, which is kind of an innovative approach. And so we're encouraging groups to collaborate as much as possible, because the congressman can only request 15 projects, and we get well over 200 requests. The deadline was Monday, but I just wanted to announce that we're extending it to the end of this week if there are groups that still need to get a proposal in. And last but not least, we hope to do a check presentation for Uprose that has also training for green jobs in the green industrial zone in southern Brooklyn in Sunset Park. So we hope to do that check presentation next Friday on Earth Day. Anyone's welcome to come down there for that. And also next week, Wednesday, the 20th, we're going to have a ribbon cutting for reopening the ball fields 5 through 8, which have been through years of remediation to remove lead in Red Hook. We're looking forward to doing more of these, but folks that want to come down, that will be with EPA and Parks Department, and it will be, I know Nydia is working on her rotator cuff. She's been doing physical therapy so she can throw in a first pitch. That'll be at 1:30 on next Wednesday, April 20th, for anyone who wants to come down to the ball fields in Red Hook. And that's what I got from Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez.
Thank you so much, Dan. We appreciate it. I don't see any other representatives of elected officials. So did we have anyone sign up for a community session?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If you're on the attendee side and you want to speak about something, please raise your hand now. Otherwise, forever hold your peace.
Hildegard, I'll get to you as soon as we're done with this. Yes.
Well, this is about it's community time, but I'll wait.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can speak. You have to unmute though.
Okay, so NYU and CUNY and the mayor's office are working on a flood measurement project. It's called FloodNet, and there'll be workshops for community members who might be interested in understanding the data that's being collected, how it's being collected, and how it might be used. Why is this important for Brooklyn Community Board 6? Because there are flood sensors being placed in Gowanus and in Red Hook. I will be posting in the chat information on how to join that workshop. It'll be on April 27th. And so for anybody who's interested in getting the data, understanding what the data is, and being part of that project to use it for all of our sundry purposes and advocacy, please, please, please go ahead and join. I've reached out to all of the key movers for the project and said, hey, can our community members go? And they were saying, please, 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 Brooklyn Community Board 6, will you please show up? So please check out what I have to share in the chat. Thank you very much.
Good, Ty. I see Joyce Cowpack from the Red Hook Library.
Yeah,
You
I
upgrade
just,
her?
Joyce, I just upgraded you. You need to accept that and come over to the panel, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone's having a very nice evening. I just wanted to give a few updates about Brooklyn Public Library and Red Hook in particular. Finally, we're able to open up for programming inside the library. And we'll also be able to do meeting room reservations. That's something that a lot of people have come in asking about, whether it be community groups or just, folks wanting. We haven't had that available for the last 2 years, so that's pretty exciting. On April 30th at the Red Hook Library, we're having a kind of celebration to welcome the community back. We'll be having a live concert by LA Blacksmith. Also, we'll be having crafts with Pioneer Works. The Big Reuse will be there to talk about composting and to distribute compost. And representatives from Councilmember Avila's office will also be there tabling, speaking to the constituents. So we're looking forward to that. That will be from 1 to 4 on Saturday, April 30th. So if anybody's available, come and say hello. Summer readings back. It's going to be starting on June 4th. And this year, it coincides with Brooklyn Public Library's 125th anniversary. So we intend on having a big Brooklyn birthday party, and there'll be more details to come in the May Community Board meeting. I'll be back. And lastly, I'd like to let everyone know that the newly formed Center for Brooklyn History, that's a collaboration between the Brooklyn Historical Society and Brooklyn Public Library. We'd like to encourage people to learn about it and to have classes and educators come and visit us. There's vast archives, and if anyone would like information about that, you could contact the Center for Brooklyn History or call any branch. And that's all that I have to say, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Joyce. We appreciate it. Is there any new business that anyone has? Seeing none, is Alec,
Motion
is that
to
your hand
adjourn?
up?
No hand up, Peter.
All right, there is a hand on your screen. Anyway, so seeing no new business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second by Leroy, motion by Jerry. Thank you all. We will see you in May. Until then, be well, enjoy your holidays this weekend, and peace and love.
Have a happy Easter and happy Passover, everybody. See you next month, if not sooner.